Well, today on the show we're going to have a quick quiz because I always like to try to take this scholar of history here and give him one-upmanship. Name the 3 years in which St. Joseph Bloodhounds won the state championship in TCIL.
Oh, man, you're killing me.
No?
No, I read the notes, too.
You did?
1977?
Yeah. 77
77?
was one. 62, back in the day when they wore those helmets that looked like plastic.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
And then 80.
In 80,
Yeah,
okay.
the 77 team had Peter Zavaleta, who was related to the coach Gus from 62 and 80. Joe Pena was a coach in 77. St. Joseph, in other words, we start this segment talking about a little bit of Bloodhound history. You realize that in the day they were a very good program, consistently going to the playoffs every year. It might be that they're going to be back this year in the playoffs.
Yeah, and it helps when you have somebody that can throw 5 or score 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Kai Money, I mean, only a sophomore right now. He's doing a great job as the general of that team.
And they generalized the triumph over Port Isabel by scoring early, getting an onside kick, leading 21-0, and holding on when Omar Silva and the Tarpons really made a run at them. They made a champion's run, came up short. St. Joe beats Port Isabel for the first time since 1977. Now, take that with a grain of salt because there was a while when they didn't play each other. But so 77, ironically, was when they won the state title in TCIL. They went to TAPS, I think, in 98 or whatever. So St. Joe's got a great quarterback. They've got some good skill guys. Here's what I want to know. This guy's name is Dave Lapire, Lapeyre. There was a Chris Lapire for Los Fresnos in 2002 who was a great basketball player. I wonder if they're related. And I wonder if I'm saying the name right, but that guy's got some skills. He plays both ways. 3 interceptions, got 170 receiving yards. So the fact is they've got some players besides Kai. I mean, it ain't like he's just sitting there doing it by himself like a Disney movie,
Yeah.
The world's greatest athlete. Dun, 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 and all the other guys are like, whoa.
No, and you watch him in those things. I mean, he's got receivers that are breaking open for him. I mean, you have 170 yards receiving. You have to break open pretty easy.
How about Cole Connor? That sounds like a football player to me.
Yeah.
43 tackles, and so does Andres Solis. So St. Joe is not a one-man team, although the one man who's the best is very good. They beat Port Isabel, man. I don't think a lot of people thought they were going to do that. Here's the thing. You're getting to be buddies with Tino Villarreal. I love to say the name. I think that he thought, and they thought that they were going to do it. What do you think? It wasn't no surprise to them.
No, and he's been very confident since he took over the program. He wants to schedule teams that, that normally St. Joe's wouldn't, and, he wants to get bigger schools. He wants to schedule them because I think he thinks just like Harlingen going up to San Antonio or those other schools.
Same deal, yeah.
It's the same thing for him. TAPS playing against a 4A, 5A.
Because they've started to play the littler schools, but he's talking about, playing anybody.
Yeah.
Well, 2 great graduates of St. Joe's. You remember Federico Pena?
No.
He was in the cabinet, presidential cabinet, became the first Hispanic mayor of Denver. He's a St. Joe's grad. What about Tony Garza? You know him.
Yeah.
Texas Secretary of State, the U.S. ambassador to Mexico, man. So, that school's got a lot of proud history. I think they're going to add some to it this year because I'm looking at their district and so far, just record-wise and stat-wise, they're dominating them other teams. We're going to see what happens when it comes down to it. But that is a very striking win, and St. Joe's needs to be very proud of themselves. And
very.
What that means is that we're going to have to live up to our promise.
And go out there.
That's right. Okay. Now, we're not in district for these guys yet, but let's talk about Rio Hondo. They're looking pretty good. Very quietly, their defense is one of the best statistically in the Valley once again.
Yeah.
Even though they've had the injuries on defense, they're still doing fine.
Yeah, I spoke to Rocky James this weekend, and he likes where his team's at. I mean, defensively, they played a great game against Gruya.
Yeah, well, they shut out Hidalgo, gave Gruya 7 points. So, people say, well, they lucked out not playing Sinton. Okay, well, that's how it worked out.
Yeah.
Whatever. It doesn't matter anymore. They played 2 games since then. They've won both. They're 3-1. They're looking solid.
Yeah, it's like, and who has Sinton even beat? Oops.
Yeah, well, they beat some pretty good teams,
yeah.
And they're ranked in the top 10 of the state. But so Sinton did well. They beat Lavernia.
Yeah, Lavernia.
PI will remember Lavernia.
Yes.
It was 48-23.
We were there.
Yeah, we were there. One of the greatest nights ever.
Yeah.
Until the end of the game when they didn't win. But that's all right. We still love them. That was a team that should have gone to the semifinals.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to be ugly to them. They know it, and we know it. And it's like Ed Couts in 2008, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
Against PLC.
Yeah.
They had that there,
Kingsville, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
all right.
I
Those are the moments that they're like loose tooth. Every now and then you just wiggle them and go,
Yeah.
But you got to bite it. You got to move on. Cuero lost
Mm-hmm.
to Columbus, 21-14. Yoakum got by Gonzales, 24-22. Here's the thing. Those are the 3 teams that whooped us last year, and they're playing very quality opponents in non-district. So Rio Hondo playing Sinton, that's the way to do it. They didn't get to play them, but you got to taste the lash, and so you'll know what to avoid next time. You know what I mean? So I like what they're doing there. Now Gruya's 2-3. They're idle. They got LaFeria coming up. LaFeria whooped Progresso 59-14. I was thinking that the Red Ants would put on a better thing, but I think LaFeria had the last couple of weeks had played not poorly, but not as well as they had. They need to get back with it, and they did. And when that team runs the ball well, like it's been doing, it's very strong.
And LaFeria's played some upper level teams,
have.
so they play Pioneer. You know, so they're not playing cupcakes either.
No, not at all.
They're going out of the way to play tough teams to get ready for district.
We're quickly back to Rio Hondo. They got West Oso coming up. A lot of these teams on the 4A level are idle, or open, or bye. I call it idle. That's what they used to do in the 60s. Minnesota was idle, the Golden Gophers, right?
Yeah.
So then West Oso's not very good. The only team they've beaten is Bishop. They're 1-4, so that ain't going to be a problem, I don't think. Progresso is idle, and they go to Port Isabel October 9th, and we start the whole match right there. So Port Isabel, I think, is going to be an angry customer. I really feel like they are. And so, the team that has to put up with them next is going to be in trouble because that's still a good football team. Hey, Omar Silva, 2 more touchdown passes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the kind of thing where they can start to diversify more and throw the ball more and make themselves multiple. Anthony De La Garza, the sophomore, caught one of the touchdowns. He's been a very impressive runner so far.
Yeah. And you know what? And that's the problem that you have sometimes is when you get behind like they did against St. Joe, it's hard to come back when you're a methodical running team.
Well, I'll tell you what, they did something right.
Yeah.
They scored some points. They ended up with 27 and threw 2 touchdowns. So like I said, hey, you got to make lemonade when you get some lemons. So no coach is better in the Valley than Monty Stumbaugh, and I believe he'll have those kids mentally and emotionally ready to come back from that loss. Because you got to, man. I mean, I think they're mad because they're not supposed to lose to St. Joe. I'm not trying to be ugly to the Bloodhounds, but let's face it, Port Isabel, man.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to lose, they say, to St. Joe. Well, they did. So how those kids respond will be the test of the character of that team, whether they'll end up being contenders for a playoff spot or a district title. I predict here that they will be a contender.
I think
no matter
so too.
what. Okay, now let me get through my St. Joe history here. I got page upon page of it, man. I was having fun looking up all that little stuff. It's been a while. Gus Zavaleta, boy, he was some coach. He was at there, and then he was at Porter late in his career, but he was the coach of the Monterey Tech team in the 70s, 71 national champions. It was a phenomenal team. They had about 8 Valley guys down there. Arturo Mata was there. All these guys that you've probably seen at some of these events. No, Monterey Tech was great. They were great, man. They were a great team, a national champ, man. They whooped everybody. They even beat Udala from Puebla, Universidad de las Americas. That's your Spanish lesson for today. All right. Hidalgo, Santa Rosa. Hidalgo's now got 2 wins, 28-14. Boy, Santa Rosa's not showing much yet. I feel like they have some talent. What do they got to do to get going, just generically? You've been a coach forever. I mean, how do you take a team that's 0-4 and tell them you guys are good still?
Well, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know because I had some bad teams.
I remember watching it.
But no, look, 0-4. 0-4 is nothing because you haven't hit district.
You got 6 left.
Yeah. So once you hit district, I mean, you really have to look. This game matters. This game matters. Right. We need to get these. And coaches, even though they lie about this, every coach looks at the schedule and goes, "This is winnable. This is winnable. This is no."
Mark a little bit. Yeah.
And they're going to tell you no that they don't do that, but they're liars. They all do it.
Mentiras.
Okay, so Santa Rosa already knows. They've already marked off what games they think they can win.
You want to know which one?
Well, tell me.
October 9th, Lyford. Remember last year we said the winner of that game sets the pace?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So right now Hallettsville is still looking strong. And that's that second round team out there, the playoff team. But they got to get there first. I feel like Lyford in particular has the potential to do it. And I'm not going to give up on Santa Rosa, man, because they show surprises all the time. But whoever wins that first game, because Santa Rosa is off, then they got Lyford. They just got to win that game.
Yeah.
And then if you do, the horizon opens up before you, and the rest of the stuff is crap. Who cares what happened? We're 1-0. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's all that matters. And everything you do before district, really doesn't matter.
You've seen me at the games, right? Sometimes I'll be keeping stats like Mr. Poindexter, but other times I'll be going crazy and jumping up and down and cussing like a sailor. And sometimes I think they're going to fucking cart me away. Yep. Because I'll probably end up cussing a little bit before it's over.
I got to beat this part now.
That's terrible, but it's because I get excited, man. The kids know that. The coaches know. I just love the games. Yeah. And I don't care who wins and who loses, but I like to see hitting. I like to see kids fired up and comporting themselves well.
Yeah.
So for every hit that I like to see a guy knock the you-know-what out of somebody, I enjoy seeing the Johnny Davilas of the world,
picking somebody
showing
up.
Sportsmanship. Yeah. That's right, man. There's some hitting in that Vela game. It's not all just offenses and fluffy stuff. There was some pounding going on. All right, now Kingsville did not pound Raymondville. They won 14-7. And here's the thing, the Bearcats got up in front. It was Marroquin with a big run for 47 yards early. But then Dan Gutierrez has been a great sophomore quarterback. You're looking for a newcomer of the year alert, he might be one of them. He threw his first interception of the season. The kid ran it back for a touchdown. Kingsville scored one more time, and they closed it out 14-7. So that was a tough loss, man.
Yeah. So two TOs. You
Right.
can't have those. But you have to like where Raymondville's at, though.
That's pretty solid still.
Yeah. Minus this one game, they're playing well.
Yeah, they could have been undefeated. Okay, now Raymondville plays Senton, and now we're going to see. You can't be 4 turnovers. Senton will beat you 50-0 if you turn the ball over 4 times. But if you play a great football game, let's see how they can compete with the Pirates. Because as far as I'm seeing right now, that's probably the best team in the region.
Yeah.
Lorraine's lost. I mean, I can go down the list of things, but so hey, you know what? Take a shot, man. Raymondville's got some explosive guys, but they're going to have to get the offense going a little bit better. I wasn't aware that Kingsville's defense was that good, but quite frankly, when you look at Kingsville's stats, they're not giving up as many points. They're not scoring as many points.
Yeah.
In the old days, they'd break out 48 on you, but they're not doing that this year. I think they're keeping the ball away and just playing more conservative football. So be it. They can still be beaten, and perhaps they will. So might Ben Bolt be beaten, and that was an alliteration for you English fans out there. They got killed by Falls City, 50-19. That's pitiful.
Wow.
And so that means that LaVia all of a sudden used to say, well, it's Ben Bolt and everybody else. No, it's not right now. And I know Falls City's pretty good, but that gives them hope.
Yeah. And Ben Bolt has.
Bruni whooped him, though.
Yeah.
Bruni's better than Ben Bolt. Bruni beat Ben Bolt, and Ben Bolt got their butt beat by Falls City.
Yeah.
What do you think of them apples?
That's tongue twister.
Yeah.
But LaVia, it's a different LaVia team because the team that Ben Bolt had seen, the team that was spread, is now a slot tee, nasty tee, whatever you want to call it.
How about a nasty slot tee?
Yeah. There you go. They're going to have to deal with this new look, and they haven't necessarily seen this year.
Did you see the numbers? The Cardinal numbers rushing, it's like 1,600 yards. They average 400 yards a game rushing. They didn't get that against Bruni, but that's a great team. They are off, and now they play Three Rivers. And let me tell you, at first I was like, oh, I was circling it. Three Rivers has come on. They started poorly. They're 3-2 now, and there was a playoff team the last 2 years. Okay, let's see what they can handle because LaVia's got to get going, man. They're like Santa Rosa, LaVia, some of these teams. Yes, it's not desperation time because you've got the half a season. But it's time to start showing improvement, and I feel like LaVia potentially will. I always feel like they're going to win somehow. I don't know why, but I really think that program's pretty tough.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now, finally, MMA 0-3. By the way, MMA, 1980 was it? They won the state title. So everybody says that Donna's the only team to win it is incorrect. What you say is the only public school to win a state title is them. It was the Redskins. But St. Joe's got 3 and MMA's got 1. They've had some great players over there.
Yeah.
Here's the time when I mentioned Dale Hellestray and Lionel Pierre and Darren. It's like the litany of things. Anyway, MMA's 0-3, and they've got a team, Monte Alto, who actually I think has a pretty good chance to win. They're 2-3. They whooped Oratory 48-0. They got that win, and so now against MMA, they could be at 500. Could the Blue Devils?
Yeah.
You should like the Blue Devils.
No, I know.
He
I
likes Duke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not far from here, so.
No, Monte Alto or
Yeah,
Duke?
Monte Alto.
I'm about to say Duke
Duke,
pretty far, brother. Golly. Santa Maria, I felt like they probably had a good chance against Agua Dulce, and they didn't get it done, man. They got beat 37-22. And here's the thing. I have not been able to figure out who they play next because the schedules say non-district opponent. Or no, non-varsity opponent.
Non-varsity, yeah.
So whoever that is, there better be a win because I think the Cougars need to get with it too. Here's the deal. Remember at the beginning of the show, in the preview, we said, okay, the sub-5A teams ran into some monster groups in the playoffs last year. Most of them made it, but they didn't win a game. So right now, I'm not going to be negative about it, but we can do better than this, and I feel like we will. So let's this next 2 weeks show that some of these sub-5A teams can play football because I know they can.
Yeah. One thing, just for the teenagers watching this, report cards come out next week. So things could shape up a little bit different, when
I sure hope
you start
not.
looking at that.
I sure hope not. Kids, get in there and talk to your teachers and tell them, hey, I need to make up my work. What do you want me to do? Don't say nothing about football, okay? Go to the teacher, because I'm a teacher. Go to the teacher and bring it into their wheelhouse and say, what can I do to get where I need to get? And just stop and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because if you say, I got to play the game Friday, a lot of teachers are going to be like, oh, really?
Yeah, maybe
Come in here and
a
talk to
gift
me.
card.
Nah, this
Or,
guy,
you
leave
know,
it to him to be his
cash.
chicanery. Hey, you know how I ran into the other day?
What was that?
I pulled into Sonic to get a hamburger, and who was working there but Matt Whitesides.
Really?
Yeah, man. You remember Crazy 8 for Edinburgh
Yeah.
North, one of the all-time leading Cougar rusher. He's going to be an engineer one of these days, is that guy. You know
Wow.
what I found out? He was born in Alaska. No wonder he ran like a little grizzly.
Yeah.
Golly.
Was he wearing skates?
No, but he is apparently one of the greatest skaters of our time, and I don't mean he's a real skater. Like
Really?
Homeboy's a skater. He
Oh,
loves
okay.
hockey. He probably would rather watch the NHL than the NFL.
Wow.
But it was good to see him, man. He was one of the best players I've been around for a while, and a good, funny kid. And he'd always come off and say something funny on the sidelines. He's cool, man. So I think he's going to end up going to UTRGV, which used to be known as Pan Am, which used to be known as Edinburgh Junior College and Edinburgh Regional College. It had 7 names.
Wow.
Did you know that?
No.
The university that I worked for, last time I looked, had 7 different names. Now it's UTRGV, and I haven't brought myself to wear too much of that gear yet because I'm kind of an old fogey, but I'll get around to it. I'll get in the swing of things. Going to some of those soccer games and seeing some of our kids play, it makes me happy. What do you think of that? Anyway, yeah, this has been one of the weirder shows ever because I'm just in a goofy mood. I don't know what it is.
It's week 6.
It's week 6. That is what it is. Greg Selber, Jake Berry. Let's see what happens down in San Benito. And let's see what happens over in Mission because that Veterans Sharyland game. And let's see what happens low out in Roma because there are some great football games this week. And I think that the other districts are going to percolate and get to the point where we're talking about their games too, such as, i.e., down in Mercedes in 2 weeks. We're out of here for now, and hopefully if the world doesn't come to an end, we'll be back here next week.